The giant space station orbited the planet Nexus Prime like a silver moon. Inside its massive halls, beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important military event of the year. The Galactic War Games brought together the finest warships from dozens of different worlds and species. Captain Lee Seok walked through the main corridor of the station. His human uniform looked plain compared to the colorful outfits worn by the alien commanders around him. Some aliens had scales that shimmered like jewels. Others had skin that changed colors as they moved. A few floated in the air without touching the ground. Lee Seok was not tall like many of the aliens, was not covered in armor like the warrior species. He did not have multiple arms or glowing eyes. It's just a human from Earth, and everyone could see it. The briefing hall was enormous. Hundreds of seats filled the room in curved rows. At the front, a massive screen showed images of different warships. Each ship represented a different civilization and their military power. Lee Seok found his assigned seat near the back. As he sat down, he heard whispers and low conversations around him. The aliens were talking about the ships they would face in the games. They spoke about plasma cannons and energy shields. They discussed faster-than-light engines and quantum armor. "Look at that ugly thing," said a voice behind Lee Seok. He turned slightly and saw Commander Thex of the Vortanian Empire. Thex was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms. His species was known for their advanced technology and their pride. Thex was pointing at the screen, which now showed the human warship called the Endurance. The ship looked like a large metal box with engines attached to the back. It had no sleek curves like the alien vessels. It did not glow with energy like the ships from the crystal worlds. It looked heavy and slow. "That is supposed to be a warship," Thex continued, his voice full of mockery. "It looks like a cargo hauler. How did these humans even get invited to the games?" Admiral Kree of the Stellarian Confederacy laughed loudly. She was a blue-skinned alien with silver hair that moved like liquid metal. Her species was famous for building the fastest ships in the galaxy. "I heard their ship can barely reach half light speed," Kree said. "My fighters move 3 times faster than their main warship. This will be the shortest war game in history." More aliens joined the conversation. They gathered around Thex and Kree, all looking at the screen that showed the Endurance. Their voices grew louder as they made jokes about the human ship. "Look at those weapons," said General Vex from the Hammer Worlds. His species looked like living rocks with glowing cracks running through their bodies. "Are those actual metal projectiles? We stopped using those weapons 1,000 years ago." "Maybe they will throw rocks at us," suggested Captain Nira of the Void Dancers. Her species could phase in and out of normal space at will. That seems to be about their technology level. Lee Seok listened to all the comments, but said nothing. He kept his face calm and showed no emotion. His hands rested quietly on his knees. He did not argue with the aliens or defend his ship. The briefing began when Fleet Admiral Zorjan took the stage. Zorjan was from the host species and looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. He had organized the war games for over 50 years. "Welcome, commanders, to the annual Galactic War Games," Zorgan announced. His voice echoed through the huge hall. "This year, we have representatives from 43 different civilizations. Each brings their finest warship and most skilled crews." The screen behind Zorgan showed each ship in turn. The Vortanian vessels were sleek and silver, with the ability to phase through solid matter. The Stellarian ships looked like living creatures made of metal and energy. The Crystal Collective ships were transparent and could repair themselves. Instantly, when the Endurance appeared on screen, a wave of laughter swept through the hall. The human ship looked primitive compared to all the others. It had no special abilities listed on its specification sheet. No energy shields, no quantum weapons, no faster-than-light combat capability. The rules are simple, Zorjan continued. 5 scenarios will test your ships and crews: speed, firepower, tactics, endurance, and adaptability. The winner gains a permanent seat on the Galactic Defense Council and the right to patrol 3 star systems. Lee Seok knew this was important. Humanity had been trying to gain respect in galactic politics for decades. Earth was seen as a backward world with primitive technology. This was their chance to prove otherwise. Each scenario will eliminate the weakest performers, Zorjan explained. Only the strongest will survive to the final battle. May the best civilization win. As the briefing ended, the alien commanders began to leave the hall. Many of them walked past Lee Seok, still making comments about his ship. I give the humans 10 minutes in the first scenario, Dex said to his officers. That is generous, replied Kree. I say 5 minutes. Why waste time with numbers? Added General Vex. They will be eliminated as soon as the games begin. Seok stood up and prepared to leave. As he walked toward the exit, Commander Dex stepped in front of him. The tall alien looked down at the human captain with obvious disdain. Tell me, human, Dex said in a mocking tone. Why did your people send such a pathetic ship to these games? Are you trying to embarrass yourselves? Lee Seok looked up at the alien commander. He could have explained that the Endurance was built for different purposes than the alien ships. He could have mentioned the years of careful design and testing that went into every system. Said he could have defended his crew and their abilities. Instead, he simply smiled politely and said, "Okay, we do our best with what we have, Commander. We hope to learn much from watching your advanced ships in action." Dex laughed and turned to his officers. Did you hear that? They hope to learn by watching us. At least they know their place. The group of aliens walked away, still laughing and making jokes. Lee Seok continued toward the exit, his expression unchanged. Behind him, he could hear more aliens placing bets on how quickly the human ship would be destroyed. Lieutenant Kim Yuna was waiting for him outside the briefing hall. She was his tactical officer and had been listening to the alien comments through the hall's public address system. Ashe showed anger and frustration. Captain, she said quietly, they have no idea what they are talking about. The Endurance is twice as tough as any ship in there. Lee Seok nodded calmly. Let them think what they want, Lieutenant. Sometimes it is better to be underestimated. But sir, they are making fools of us. The whole galaxy will see this broadcast. Tia. Lee Seok replied. They will see everything. As they walked back toward their ship, Kim Yuna noticed something in her captain's voice. It was not defeat or embarrassment. It was something else, something that made her think there was more to this situation than she understood. The Endurance sat in the docking bay, surrounded by the magnificent alien warships. Next to the glowing, elegant vessels of other species, it looked like exactly what the aliens said it was. A slow, ugly, primitive ship that had no business being in the war games. But Kim Yuna has served on the Endurance for 3 years. She knew what the ship could do. She knew what the crew could do. And she was beginning to understand that Captain Lee Seok had a plan. The war games would begin in 6 hours. This galaxy was about to discover what humans could really do when everyone expected them to fail. The observation deck of Nexus Prime Station buzzed with excitement. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to watch the war games. Giant screens showed different views of the battlefield. A massive asteroid field with abandoned space stations scattered throughout. Captain Lee Seok sat in his command chair aboard the Endurance. Round him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The bridge was simple compared to the alien ships. No holographic displays or floating controls. Just basic screens and physical buttons that had been tested and proven reliable. All ships Prepare for Scenario 1. Announce Fleet Admiral Zorgen over the communication system. Your mission is to capture and hold 3 strategic points while eliminating enemy vessels. The scenario begins in 60 seconds. Lieutenant Kim Yuna checked her tactical displays. She could see the other 11 ships on her sensors. Each one looked more advanced than the Endurance on paper. The Vortanian ships shimmered as they prepared to phase shift. The Stellarian vessels charged their quantum drives. The Crystal Collective ship began to glow with self-repair energy. 30 seconds, Zorgen announced. Chief Engineer Park Hyun spoke from his station. All systems ready, Captain. Engines at full power. Weapons loaded and standing by. Lee Seok nodded. Remember everyone, we are not here to impress anyone. We are here to complete the mission. Stay focused on the objectives. 10 seconds, came the announcement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin. The alien ships exploded into action. The Vortanian vessels immediately vanished from normal space, phasing through the asteroid field like ghosts. The Stellarian ships became blurs of motion, their quantum drives allowing them to move at incredible speeds between the floating rocks. The Crystal Collective ship moved forward slowly but confidently. When small asteroids hit its hull, the crystalline structure absorbed the impacts and healed instantly. Weapons fire from other ships seemed to have no permanent effect on its transparent armor. The Endurance moved forward at what looked like a crawl compared to the other ships, while alien vessels darted between asteroids or phased through them. Entirely, the human ship had to navigate around each obstacle carefully. In the observation deck, the alien spectators pointed and laughed. Commander Dex turned to his fellow officers with amusement. Look at them, he said, gesturing at the main screen showing the Endurance. They are moving like an old cargo hauler. By the time they reach the first objective, we will have captured all 3 points. Admiral Kree nodded in agreement. Quay, their navigation is so slow. My ships have already reached the first station while they are still avoiding asteroids. The first strategic point was an abandoned mining station in the center of the asteroid field. The fastest ships reached it within minutes. A fierce battle began as multiple vessels tried to claim the position. The Stellarian ships used their speed to strike and retreat before enemies could target them properly. The Vortanian vessels phased in and out of reality, attacking from unexpected angles. Other alien ships brought exotic weapons to bear, filling space with energy beams and plasma bolts. Navigator Choi Sung called out from his station. Captain, we are approaching the outer edge of the battle zone. Multiple ships engaged at the first objective. I can see that, Lee Seok replied calmly. Take us around the main fighting. Head for the second objective. Kim Yuna looked confused. Sir, should we not join the battle for the first station? It is worth the most points. Sometimes the obvious choice is not the best choice, Lieutenant Lee Seok said. Let them fight over the shiny prize while we do our job. The Endurance changed course and headed for the second strategic point, communications relay station on the far side of the asteroid field. Most of the other ships were focused on the intense battle at the mining station. As they traveled, Park Hyun monitored the alien ships through their sensors. He began to notice something interesting. The advanced alien technology that looked so impressive had some weaknesses. Captain, Park Hyun said, I am seeing some unusual readings from the other ships. The Vortanian vessels seem to drain a lot of power when they phase. They have to return to normal space to recharge. The Stellarian ships are similar, added Kim Yuna, studying her tactical displays. The quantum drives generate enormous heat. They have to slow down periodically to cool their engines. Lee Seok listened, but said nothing. He had expected this. Advanced technology often came with hidden costs and limitations. The battle at the first objective grew more intense. Ships darted in and out of the fighting, trying to claim the station while avoiding destruction. The spectators in the observation deck cheered as their favorite. Ships made spectacular attacks and narrow escapes. Then disaster struck for some of the alien vessels. A Vortanian ship tried to phase through an asteroid but materialized inside solid rock when its power failed. The ship was destroyed instantly. A Stellarian vessel pushed its quantum drive too hard and suffered a catastrophic engine failure that left it drifting helplessly. First elimination, announced Sorgen. Vortanian vessel Thunder of Worlds has been destroyed due to system failure. Second elimination came another announcement moments later. Stellarian ship Wind Dancer is disabled and withdrawing from the scenario. In the observation deck, the mood became more serious. Some aliens began to whisper that perhaps the advanced technology was not as reliable as they had thought. Meanwhile, the Endurance reached the second objective without fanfare. Atiza, the communications relay, was undefended, and they captured it easily. Atiza, Siok ordered his crew to fortify their position and prepare for potential attacks. Could work, he told his bridge crew. Now we hold this position and let the others wear themselves out fighting. The main battle continued at the first objective. More ships joined the fighting as word spread that 2 vessels had already been eliminated. The combat became increasingly desperate as commanders pushed their advanced systems to the limit. Another explosion lit up the asteroid field. A ship from the Hammer Worlds had collided with a Crystal Collective vessel. Both ships were heavily damaged, though the crystalline ship began repairing itself immediately. Third elimination, Sorgen announced. Hammer World's battleship Stonecrusher has withdrawn due to critical damage. Weapons Officer Jiang Min watched the battle through his targeting systems. Captain, they are fighting very aggressively. Many ships are taking heavy damage. That is their choice, Li Siok replied. We have our objective. We hold it until ordered otherwise. The Endurance sat quietly at the communications relay, its crew monitoring the chaotic battle happening elsewhere in the asteroid field. Their ship looked slow and unimpressive, but it was exactly where it needed to be. Hours passed. The fighting at the main objective continued with increasing desperation. Ships that had seemed invincible at the start of the scenario were now showing signs of wear and damage. Advanced systems began to fail under constant stress. A 4th ship was eliminated when its exotic energy source overloaded during combat. A 5th ship withdrew when its crew was injured by feedback from their own advanced weapons in the observation deck. The alien spectators were no longer laughing at the human ship. Some began to notice that while other vessels were being destroyed or damaged, the Endurance remained functional and in control of its objective. Why is that human ship not fighting? Asked a confused alien diplomat. Maybe they are afraid, suggested another. But Commander Thex was beginning to have doubts. He watched the tactical displays more carefully and noticed something troubling. While his advanced ships were burning through energy and suffering system failures, the primitive human vessel showed no signs of stress or damage. The first scenario was ending, and the final count was made. Only 7 ships remained functional. The Endurance had quietly held the second objective for the entire battle, while other ships fought and died for the more obvious prizes. Scenario 1 complete, announced Sorgen. Surviving vessels will proceed to Scenario 2 in 4 hours. As the ships returned to the station for repairs and resupply, the alien commanders were no longer making jokes about the slow human warship. They were beginning to wonder if there was more to the Endurance than met the eye. The repair bay hummed with activity as the surviving ships prepared for the second scenario. Alien crews worked frantically to fix the damage from the first battle. Sparks flew from advanced systems that had overloaded under stress. Engineers cursed in a dozen different languages as they struggled with complex technology that had failed at critical moments. Captain Li Siok walked through the Endurance slowly, inspecting each section of his ship. The human vessel showed some scratches and minor dents from asteroid impacts, but all systems remained fully operational. Chief Engineer Park Hien followed behind him, checking readings on a simple handheld device. "How are we looking, Chief?" Lee Seok asked. "All systems green, Captain," Park Yoon replied. "The armor absorbed the impacts well. We used only 12% of our ammunition and 15% of our fuel. We can fight for more battles like the last one without resupply." Lee Seo nodded with satisfaction. The Endurance had been built for endurance, just like its name suggested. While alien ships focused on impressive displays of power, human engineers had designed their vessel to keep fighting long after others had exhausted themselves. Lieutenant Kim Yuna joined them near the weapons bay. She carried a datapad filled with information about the alien ships they had observed during the first scenario. "Captain, I have been studying the other vessels," she said. "I think I understand some of their weaknesses now." "Go ahead, Lieutenant." Kim Yuna activated her datapad and showed him detailed scans. The Vortanian ships can phase through matter, but they cannot use their weapons or shields while phasing. They have to become solid to fight, and that makes them vulnerable for several seconds. She switched to another display. Stellarian ships are incredibly fast, but their quantum drives shut down their defensive systems during acceleration. They are completely unprotected while boosting to high speed. "What about the Crystal Collective ship?" Lee Seok asked. "Their regeneration is amazing," Kim Yuna admitted, "but it slows down significantly when they are firing their weapons. They cannot heal and fight at the same time effectively." Lee Seok studied the information carefully. These were exactly the kinds of weaknesses he had hoped to discover. Advanced alien technology was impressive, but it often came with trade-offs that could be exploited by someone patient enough to observe and learn. "Keep studying them, Lieutenant," he said. "Knowledge is our greatest weapon." The second scenario briefing took place in a smaller room since only 7 ships remained. Fleet Admiral Zorgan looked pleased that the competition was already becoming more intense. "Scenario 2 will test your ability to protect civilian vessels," Zorgan announced. "A convoy of refugee ships is trying to escape through dangerous space. Your job is to escort them safely while defending against automated defense platforms left behind by an ancient civilization." The tactical display showed a treacherous region filled with energy storms, gravitational anomalies, and dozens of robotic defense stations. The convoy would have to travel slowly through this maze while the warships cleared a path and protected the helpless. Civilian vessels. Commander Dex studied the display with confidence. His remaining ship had been repaired and upgraded during the break. "These ancient weapons cannot possibly match modern Vortanian technology," he declared. Admiral Kree agreed. "My ship will clear the path in minutes. The convoy will barely need to slow down." General Vex from the Hammerworlds cracked his rocky fingers. "Simple defense platforms. You will smash them like pebbles." Lee Seok listened to their boasts, but said nothing. He had learned long ago that the most dangerous enemies were often the ones that seemed weak or outdated. The scenario began with the 7 surviving warships taking positions around a group of slow-moving civilian transports. The convoy began its journey into the dangerous region at a careful pace. The alien ships immediately rushed ahead to engage the ancient defense platforms. They wanted to clear the path quickly and show off their superior firepower. The Vortanian ship phased through the first line of defenses, peering behind several platforms to attack them from unexpected angles. The Stellarian vessel became a blur of motion, striking multiple targets in rapid succession. The Crystal Collective ship absorbed the return fire while methodically destroying each platform with precise energy beams. The ancient defenses seemed weak at first. Their weapons were old-fashioned energy cannons and simple missile systems. The alien ships destroyed dozens of platforms without taking serious damage. But then, something unexpected happened. The defense network began to adapt. As the ancient artificial intelligence controlling the platforms started learning from each engagement. It began to predict the alien attack patterns and adjust its tactics accordingly. When the Vortinian ship phased behind a group of platforms, they were ready for it. The moment it became solid to attack, concentrated fire from multiple directions struck its weak points. The ship was forced to retreat with heavy damage. The Stellarian vessel found its high-speed attacks becoming less effective as the platforms learned to lead their targets better when it boosted to maximum speed. The defenses were waiting along its predicted path with devastating crossfire. Meanwhile, Endurance moved steadily with the convoy, staying close to the civilian ships instead of rushing ahead like the others. Captain Lee Seok watched the battle carefully, studying how the ancient defenses operated. "Interesting," he said to his bridge crew. "These platforms are not just random weapons, okay? They are connected to a learning system." Navigator Choi Sung looked up from his station. "Captain, the alien ships are taking heavy damage. Should we move forward to assist them?" "Not yet," Lee Seok replied. "Let us see what these ancient weapons can really do." The defense platforms continued to evolve their tactics. They began working together in coordinated groups, setting traps for the alien ships. When the Crystal Collective vessel tried to use its regeneration ability, multiple platforms focused fire on the same spot faster than it could heal, one by one. The alien ships were forced to fall back toward the convoy. Their advanced technology, which had seemed so superior, was being systematically countered by an artificial intelligence that learned from every mistake they made. "This is impossible," Commander Dex said over the communication channel. "These platforms are using our own tactics against us. The defense network is adapting faster than we can change our approach." Admiral Kree admitted with frustration. The convoy was still only halfway through the dangerous region. More ships had been eliminated by the increasingly sophisticated defenses. Only 4 vessels remained to protect the civilian transports. That was when Captain Lee Seok decided to act. "Stop," he ordered. "Deploy defensive formation around the convoy, instead of rushing forward to attack the platforms like the other ships had done." The Endurance took a protected position around the civilian vessels. When the ancient defenses attacked, the human ship did not try to outmaneuver them or overpower them with advanced technology. Instead, Weapons Officer Zhang Min used precise, calculated fire to intercept incoming missiles and deflect energy beams. The Endurance's thick armor absorbed hits that would have damaged more sophisticated ships with energy shields. The ancient platforms tried to adapt to the human tactics, but there was nothing complex to learn. The Endurance simply positioned itself between the threats and the convoy, using basic defensive maneuvers that had been proven effective for centuries. "Captain," Kim Yuna said, "the platforms are trying to analyze our combat patterns, but we are not giving them enough complexity to work with." "Exactly," Lee Seok replied. "Sometimes the simplest approach is the hardest to counter." The convoy continued its slow journey through the dangerous region. The Endurance stayed close, methodically destroying any platform that posed a direct threat while ignoring those that were out of range. The human ship did not try to clear the entire path like the aliens had attempted. It simply protected the convoy from immediate dangers. Hours passed. The ancient defenses continued to evolve and adapt, but they had nothing to learn from the human tactics. The Endurance was not trying to be clever or impressive. It was just doing its job with steady, reliable competence. When the convoy finally reached the safety on the far side of the region, only 4 ships remained operational. The Endurance had suffered some damage, but was still fully combat capable. The alien vessels that had rushed ahead so confidently were now limping behind with critical system failures. "Scenario to complete," announced Fleet Admiral Zorjan. 4 vessels remained for the next challenge. The observation deck. The alien spectators were no longer making jokes about the primitive human ship. Some were beginning to whisper that perhaps there was more to human tactics than they had realized. Commander Dex stared at his tactical displays in confusion. His advanced Vortanian technology had been outmaneuvered by an ancient defense network, while the supposedly primitive human ship had completed the mission with steady, methodical efficiency. For the first time since the war games began, some of the aliens were starting to wonder if they had underestimated their human competitors. The final briefing room felt different now. Only 4 ships remained from the original 12 that had started the war games. The mood among the alien commanders was no longer confident and mocking. They sat quietly, studying their datapads and reviewing the damage reports from their vessels. Captain Lee Seok entered the room and took his seat. The other commanders glanced at him with expressions that were no longer dismissive. Commander Dex of the Vortanian Empire looked troubled. His ship had barely survived the last scenario and was running on backup power systems. Admiral Kree of the Stellarian Confederacy appeared frustrated. Her ship's quantum drives were operating at only 60% efficiency after overheating during the defense platform battle. General Vex of the Hammer Worlds was absent. His ship had been eliminated when its heavy armor proved useless against the adaptive, ancient weapons. The Crystal Collective representative, Node Prime, studied Lee Seok with new interest. Its crystalline ship was the least damaged of the alien vessels, but even it showed signs of stress from the prolonged fighting. Fleet Admiral Zorjan entered the room and activated the main display. "Congratulations to the 4 remaining vessels," he announced. "You have proven yourselves worthy of the final challenge." The screen showed a complex star system with multiple planets, moons, asteroid belts, and space stations. It looked like a miniature galaxy with countless hiding places and tactical opportunities. "The final scenario is simple in concept, but difficult in execution," Zorjan explained. "All 4 ships will enter this system simultaneously. The last ship remaining, operational, wins the war games. There are no other rules, no time limits, no objectives, except survival." Commander Dex shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His ship was damaged and running low on power. Direct battle against 3 other vessels would be extremely dangerous in its current condition. "You have 2 hours to prepare," Zorjan continued. "Repairs, resupply, and strategic planning are permitted. The final battle begins at 1400 hours. As the commanders left the briefing room, Lee Seok noticed that none of them tried to make alliances or agreements. This was every ship for itself. He walked calmly back to the Endurance, already forming plans in his mind. Lieutenant Kim Yuna was waiting for him in the corridor. "Captain, I have completed my analysis of the remaining ships," she said. "Okay, all 3 are operating with significant damage or limitations." "Show me," Lee Seok said. As they walked toward their ship, Kim Yuna activated her datapad. The Vortanian ship lost 2 of its 4 phasing generators. It can still phase, but only for short periods before the system overheats. The Stellarian vessel has quantum drive problems that limit its speed to about half normal. The Crystal Collective ship seems fine, but its regeneration rate has slowed down considerably. "What about us?" Lee Seok asked. "We are at 85% operational capacity," Kim Yuna replied. "Okay, minor armor damage and some weapon systems offline for maintenance, but our main engines, life support, and primary weapons are all functioning normally." Lee Seok nodded. This was exactly what he had hoped for. While the alien ships had pushed their advanced systems to the breaking point, the Endurance had been designed to keep fighting even when damaged. They reached the ship and immediately began preparations. Chief Engineer Park Hyun worked with his team to repair the damaged armor plating. Weapons Officer Jang Min checked every missile and energy cannon to ensure they would function properly in the final battle. Navigator Choi Song studied the star system map, looking for tactical advantages they could use. The system was huge and complex, with plenty of places to hide or set up ambushes. Captain Choi Sung said, "This system has 3 main asteroid belts and dozens of small moons. If we position ourselves carefully, we could control the battle flow." "Good thinking," Lee Seok replied. "But remember, the other commanders are not fools. They will be planning their own strategies 2 hours passed quickly. The 4 remaining ships launched from Nexus Prime Station and headed toward the battle system. The alien media was broadcasting the event across the galaxy. Teals of beings watched as the final confrontation approached in the observation deck. The mood was tense. Many aliens who had been confident in their species' superiority were now worried. The primitive human ship had somehow survived, while more advanced vessels had been eliminated. "How is this possible?" muttered a Vortanian diplomat. "Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs." "Maybe technology is not everything," suggested a Stellarian observer quietly. The 4 ships entered the star system from different directions. Its commander had chosen their entry point carefully, trying to gain an early advantage. The battle zone was enormous, getting plenty of room for maneuvering and tactical positioning. Commander Dex immediately moved his damaged ship toward the inner asteroid belt, hoping to use the rocks as cover while his systems recharged. His phasing ability was limited now, so he needed to avoid direct confrontation until his ship was ready. Admiral Kree took her vessel toward the outer edge of the system, planning to use her remaining speed advantage to strike quickly and retreat before enemies could respond effectively. Even at half power, her ship was still faster than the others. Node Prime guided its crystalline vessel toward a cluster of small moons, looking for a defensive position where it could use its regeneration ability to outlast the other ships in a prolonged battle. Captain Lee Seok chose a different approach. Instead of rushing to claim the best position, he moved the Endurance toward the center of the system at a steady pace. He wanted to see what the others would do before committing to any specific strategy. "Captain," Kim Yuna said from her tactical station, "all 3 alien ships are moving to defensive positions. They seem to be waiting for someone else to make the first move." "Understandable," Lee Seok replied. "They are all damaged and want to avoid unnecessary risks, but someone will have to act eventually." The waiting game began. For 30 minutes, the 4 ships moved slowly through the system without engaging. Each commander was hoping that the others would fight among themselves, leaving an easier target for the final confrontation. Then Admiral Kree made her decision. Her Stellarian ship suddenly accelerated toward the Vortanian vessel hiding in the asteroid belt. Even with damaged engines, she was still the fastest ship in the battle. Commander Dex saw her coming and tried to phase his ship through an asteroid to escape, but his damaged phasing system failed halfway through the maneuver. His ship became stuck partially inside the rock, completely helpless. Kree's vessel fired its plasma cannons, destroying the trapped Vortanian ship in a brilliant explosion. The first elimination of the final battle was complete. "Vortanian vessel eliminated," announced Sorgen over the communication system. Node Prime immediately responded to this development. Its Crystal Collective ship emerged from behind the moons and began moving toward the Stellarian vessel. The crystalline being knew that Kree's ship was vulnerable after its high-speed attack run. Kree tried to retreat, but her overheated engines could not provide enough power for another speed boost. The Crystal Collective ship caught up and began firing its energy beams in a steady, methodical pattern. The Stellarian ship fought back desperately, but its weapons could not overcome the crystalline vessel's regeneration ability. Slowly but inevitably, Kree's ship was worn down and destroyed. Stellarian vessel eliminated, came another announcement. Now only 2 ships remained. The Endurance and the Crystal Collective vessel faced each other across the empty space of the star system. The final confrontation was about to begin. "Captain?" Lee Seok looked at his tactical display and smiled slightly. Everything was proceeding exactly as he had hoped. The alien ships had eliminated each other while the Endurance had remained undamaged and ready for the real fight. "All stations, prepare for combat," he ordered. "This is what we came here to do." The 2 ships faced each other across the vast emptiness of space. The Crystal Collective vessel glowed with internal light, its transparent hull showing the complex energy patterns flowing through its regenerative systems. The Endurance looked dark and solid by comparison, like a piece of ancient metal floating among the stars in the observation deck of Nexus Prime Station. Millions of beings across the galaxy watched in silence. What had started as entertainment had become something much more serious. The primitive human ship that everyone had mocked was now the final challenger for the greatest military prize in known space. Node Prime studied the human vessel through its crystalline sensors. The ship appeared damaged and slow, just as it had throughout the entire competition. But the Crystal Collective being was no longer fooled by appearances. This human captain had proven to be far more dangerous than anyone had expected. Captain Lee Seok sat calmly in his command chair, studying his tactical displays. The Crystal Collective ship was impressive, but he had been watching it fight for hours. He understood its strengths and weaknesses better than its own crew realized. Lieutenant Kim, report on enemy capabilities, he said quietly. Kim unit-checked her sensors carefully. The crystalline ship has powerful energy weapons and strong regeneration. But Captain, I noticed something important. Its regeneration slows down significantly when it fires its main weapons. It cannot heal and fight at maximum power simultaneously. Excellent observation, Lee Seok replied. Chief Park, how are our weapon systems? Chief Engineer Park Hyun smiled from his station. It's all systems operational, Captain. We have been saving our best equipment for this moment. The aliens have not seen what we can really do yet. Navigator Choi, position us for optimal firing angles, Lee Seok ordered. Sir, Choi Sung responded, his hands moving across the control panels with practiced efficiency. The Endurance began to move toward the Crystal Collective ship at its characteristic steady pace. To observers, it looked like the same slow, clumsy maneuvering they had seen throughout the war games. Node Prime decided to end the battle quickly. Its ship accelerated forward, energy weapons charging for a devastating first strike. The crystalline being was confident that its superior technology would overwhelm the primitive human vessel in direct combat. The two ships closed distance rapidly. When they were within optimal firing range, Node Prime unleashed the full power of its energy weapons. Brilliant beams of coherent light struck the Endurance's hull, scorching the metal armor and sending sparks flying from damaged systems. But the human ship did not explode or retreat as expected. The thick armor absorbed the energy blasts, spreading the damage across multiple sections. Warning lights flashed on the Endurance's bridge, but all critical systems remained operational. Armor holding, reported Park Yoon. Damage to outer hull sections only. All weapon systems still online. Turn fire, Lee Seok ordered calmly. What happened next shocked every observer in the galaxy. The Endurance's weapon systems came alive with a display of firepower that no one had expected. Multiple missile launchers opened fire simultaneously, sending dozens of projectiles toward the Crystal Collective ship. But these were not the simple missiles the aliens had seen earlier. These were advanced human weapons with adaptive targeting systems and multiple warhead types. Its missiles carried kinetic penetrators designed to punch through energy shields. Others held electromagnetic pulse charges that could disrupt electronic systems. At the same time, the Endurance's energy weapons revealed their true capabilities. What had appeared to be basic laser cannons were actually sophisticated particle beam arrays with variable frequency outputs. The beams struck the crystalline ship at precisely calculated angles and power levels. Node Prime watched in amazement as its ship's regeneration systems struggled to keep up with the incoming damage. The human weapons were designed to work together in a coordinated, cascading pattern that overwhelmed the Crystal Collective's healing ability. Impossible, Node Prime transmitted over the communication channel. Your technology readings showed primitive systems only. Lee Seok allowed himself a small smile. We prefer not to show all our capabilities until necessary, he replied. You should not have underestimated us. The battle continued with increasing intensity. The Crystal Collective ship fought back with everything it had, but the human tactics proved devastatingly effective. Every time the crystalline vessel tried to regenerate damage, new attacks struck before the healing could complete. Kim Yuna coordinated the weapon's fire with precision timing. She had studied the enemy ship's regeneration patterns for hours and knew exactly when to strike for maximum effect. "Captain, their healing rate is dropping. The constant damage is overwhelming their repair systems." Weapons Officer Zhang switched to concentrated fire pattern. Li Seok ordered. Zhang Men nodded and adjusted his targeting systems. Instead of spreading damage across the entire enemy ship, he focused all weapons on specific sections. The strategy was simple but effective. Even the most advanced regeneration technology could not heal fast enough when multiple weapons concentrated on the same target area. The Crystal Collective ship began to show serious damage for the first time in the war games. Cracks appeared in its transparent hull as the internal energy patterns became unstable. Node Prime realized with growing alarm that its supposedly invincible vessel was actually losing the battle. "How are you doing this?" Node Prime demanded over the communication channel. "Our sensors showed your weapons were centuries behind our technology." "Your sensors showed you what we wanted them to see," Li Seok replied. Human military doctrine emphasizes deception and misdirection. Okay? We have been hiding our true capabilities throughout these games. Okay? The truth was even more impressive than Node Prime realized. The Endurance had been designed from the beginning to appear primitive, while hiding advanced systems inside its crude-looking hull. Human engineers had learned that enemies often underestimated opponents who looked weak or outdated. Every system on the ship had been built with multiple backup components and redundant pathways, while alien ships relied on single advanced technologies. The Endurance used dozens of simpler systems working together. When one component failed, others immediately took over the function. The weapon systems were particularly clever. The missiles that appeared basic actually contained sophisticated guidance computers and adaptive warheads. The energy weapons looked like simple lasers, but could adjust their frequency and power output to counter any type of defense. Most importantly, the entire crew had been trained to work as a perfect team. While alien ships often relied on automated systems and individual brilliance, the humans emphasized coordination and mutual support. The final phase of the battle began when the Crystal Collective ship's regeneration systems finally collapsed. Under the sustained assault, without its healing ability, the crystalline vessel became vulnerable to conventional weapons. Its enemy regeneration offline, Kim Yuna reported. All weapons fire at will. The Endurance unleashed everything it had, saved for this moment. Hidden weapon ports opened across the hull, revealing additional missile launchers and energy cannons. The ship that had appeared slow and weak throughout the war games finally showed its true, deadly nature. The Crystal Collective ship tried desperately to retreat, but it was too late. The accumulated damage from the prolonged battle had weakened its engines and maneuvering systems. Node Prime could only watch as the human weapons systematically destroyed its vessel, section by section. "Crystal Collective vessel eliminated," announced Fleet Admiral Zorgan. "The human ship Endurance is the winner of the Galactic War Games." Silence filled the observation deck for several long moments. Then, slowly, applause began. Less, it was not the mocking laughter that had greeted the humans at the beginning. It was the respectful acknowledgement of a superior opponent. Captain Li Seok stood up from his command chair and looked around at his crew. They had done something remarkable. They had proven that human courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome any technological advantage. "Well done, everyone," he said simply. "Let us go home." As the Endurance began its journey back to Nexus Prime Station, communication channels across the galaxy buzzed with amazement and concern. The slow human warship that everyone had mocked had become the most feared vessel in known space. Military academies began updating their curricula to include courses on human combat tactics. Alien engineers started studying the principles of redundant systems and deceptive design. Most importantly, no one would ever again make the mistake of underestimating humanity based on appearances alone. The dangerous human warship had taught the galaxy a lesson they would never forget.